Chapter 5. In one of the East District's cafeterias. Its de facto name is the Third School Cafeteria. Although there are several cafeterias scattered throughout the campus, this one is the most popular by far. Apparently. During noon, it's filled with not only students but also teaching staff lined up in a queue. It seems the secret behind the popularity of this cafeteria is the student they call Super High School Level Cook, who boasts of his own unique recipe. His food isn't governed by genre or common sense, and I hear it's so addictive you can't help but feel like it must contain drugs, but come to think of it, it doesn't really matter since I've forgotten how addictive it is. Well, in any case, even now the student cafeteria is filled with students, so there wasn't a single seat available. For someone like me standing by myself, this atmosphere is anything but comfortable. I'm here too, you know. Eh? Did you hear me? I told you, I'm the super high school level secret agent from the 77th batch, Yudo Kamishiro. Come on! How many times do I have to introduce myself? Kamishiro said as he made a cross shape with his arms in front of me. Damn it, it seems like we have bad chemistry. I was praying to God a lot that we'd be a good combination. Too bad. What kind of God were you praying to? In any case, it seems Kamishiro and I certainly do have bad chemistry. Forgettable Kamishiro and forgetful me. He was holding what looked like a mixture of pale kalpis and water. Well, whatever. What's more important is starting our conversation. Right, we can do that, but... I looked around at the students bustling through the cafeteria. Why come here of all places? Kamishiro waved his short finger in front of me with a tisk tisk tisk. It's bad taste to answer such a question to an outsider. If anything, this is the perfect place for it. If we talked about this in a place with only a few people, someone would be able to overhear us easily. It's a theory that I have, that we should hide like we're extras in an adult video. So what you're saying is, if we need to talk about something important, we should pretend we're having a normal chat. What I'm saying is, it'd be lonely if I were here all by myself. Our casual conversation was buried in the sound of the hustle and bustle around us. See? No one cares about our conversation, do they? Kamishiro had a huge grin on his face like he had just committed some fantastic prank. He then moved on to the main topic. There's a reason why I wanted to talk to you as soon as possible. Did anyone go to your room this morning, big sis? Eh? Did they? It's fine if you've forgotten. Just check in your notebook. Surprised, I did as I was told and took out Ryoko Odanashi's memory notebook and looked through it. Ah! I remembered in no time at all. I couldn't help but yell out as I remembered. I remember! I know! It was Junko Anishima! That girl suddenly came into my room! Huh. Kamishiro suddenly leaned forward. So then, that person really was Junko Anishima. I knew it. Yup. Seems like that wiretap I put in your room worked perfectly. Huh? Say, Kamishiro. What? What did you just say now? Did you say wiretap? Yeah, I said that. I said wiretap. What about it? A wiretap? Yes, it's a common machine used for eavesdropping. I quickly stood from my chair. How is that normal? I screamed at the top of my lungs. Normal, common people don't use those machines. Kamashiro's face was calm as ever. Let's not rant on about the wiretape. It was crime prevention. Wiretaps aren't used to prevent crimes. So you noticed. Clap, clap, clap. As he verbally applauded me, he took out a giant paper bag from under his chair. The boy immediately shoved his hand into the bag and pulled out a sweetbread. Ah, a sugar twist donut. As he cheered out by himself, he happily crammed it into his mouth. That's a little rude. I've no idea what you just said. Kamishiro swallowed down the sweetbread that had been stuffed into his mouth. I said, I don't want you to misunderstand me. I didn't just wiretap for you, big sis. In a broader sense of speaking, I guess I wiretapped around this many people. Kamishiro held up all his fingers. Eh? 10 people? He He shook his head. 100 people. 100 people? Each figure was to signify a unit of 10 people. You can sit 100 people on an Inaba Munuki shed, no problem. I was stunned at the unexpected amount of people he counted. He continued to explain the reason why. The reason is, I rotate between girls a lot, basically. That way, I can have fun with you and best suits you at the time of the month. I guess that's why I like heavy rotation so much. He puffed out his chest. No, that doesn't matter. In any case, how did you manage to wiretap 100 people's rooms? It's easy with my ability. Sneaking into places like the girls' toilets or their dressing room is a piece of cake. Do something else with that piece of cake. Making it nice and creamy with extra cream. This is really getting out of hand. The hand, the leg, the head, the back, it's getting out of everything. Let bygones be bygones. The boy wiped away his problems with a simple phrase and started talking about a different subject. When you big sisters are in a room, you sure are noisy, aren't you? Because of that, I could barely hear any of the conversation. So why did Junko Enoshima come to visit you? She came because she had an errand for you to run, didn't she? As he said that, he took out another sweetbread. Oh, a cub's palm made in Germany. He looked like he was tasting a rare delicacy as he munched on it. Well, that's... My eyes dropped down to my notebook as I answered him. It seems she came to give me a hint. A hint? I flipped through my notebook. Junko Enoshima's purpose... Kamishiro looked surprised at my words. Tell me more in detail. What did Junko Enoshima say her purpose was? Kamishiro asked with a more forceful voice. I read aloud my memories from my notebook, also feeling very tense. It seems like Junko Enoshima has two purposes. The first is to crush Izuru Kamakura until nothing is left. Do you know what that means? Keep going, he coldly prompted. I looked back down in my notebook. The second is... I read on ahead a little, and was shocked by what I read. It was as if someone had killed me by pounding my spine with a hammer. I felt a sudden, intense shock surge throughout my entire body. Big sis? What the hell? It says, kill your beloved darling Yasuke Matsuda. As soon as I said it, my brain felt like it was having a nuclear meltdown. My surroundings began to rock from side to side. It wasn't an earthquake. I, myself, was the one shaking. My head felt hot, unavoidably so. Only my body was cold. I was stricken by the less familiar feelings of fear and anger all at once. I was shaking violently for reasons I could not understand. Calm down, big sis. The inside of my head was numb with fear. There was a voice echoing quietly. I was brought back to my senses to find Kamishiro saying something to me. The kill thing has to be a bluff. There's no way a person can kill so lightly. If she really planned to kill him, she wouldn't bother declaring it to you until long after murdering him. Am I right? That would be true. I know that. But I can't stop my body from shaking. You're right. There's no way she'd kill him. My voice was shaking so much, I almost couldn't form a single word. In the meantime, it might be better for you to just not say anything until you calm down, he said lazily as he gulped down the bread in his hand. Instead, you should listen to my reasoning from now on, he announced loudly. Okay, let's get a move on then. Kamishiro suddenly straightened his posture enthusiastically, and he started the reasoning part. Firstly, there's a problem of the advance notice of Yasuke Matsuda's death that you're so worried about. I suppose that's a bluff. I mean, there's no sense in telling others about a murder you have yet to commit. She may have been using it as a threat, but that's also unlikely. It's definitely a bluff. For now, that's our understanding of it. But we should be more wary of the girl's first purpose. Junko Enoshima's first purpose. That's certainly... No, even so. Crushing Izuru Kamakura until there's nothing left is... Honestly, Even I was a little surprised. It's too much of a coincidence. I didn't think I'd hear Izuru Kamakura's name. Who's that? Did you ask, who's that person? Kamishiro patted his chest with his hand. They're the culprit. The boy leaned forward, over the table, and spoke in an excited voice. I was surprised, since Izuru Kamakura is the culprit behind the worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history. Eh? The culprit behind the worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history? Speaking of which, what is the worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history? I tilted my head to the side. Wait, I can tell by your reaction that you don't remember. Kamishiro huffed and pouted. It's boring to show off my deductions to other big sisters, but from now on I should expect your reaction when I tell you my reasoning. Kamishiro really did look bored as he exhaled deeply. Then he began to talk again. When I told you the other day, you didn't remember then either, but you didn't even bother to ask me whether the worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history really happened or not, did you? But now I can say that with more confidence. Kamishiro clicked his fingers right in front of my eyes. The worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history. Izuru Kamakura is the culprit behind the incident. He wore a proud expression as he declared it. After a while of wearing that expression, he spoke again. That wasn't the reaction I was waiting for. He said his one-sided excuses as I tried to regain my composure. The reason as to why I believe this is the case is also why I called this meeting. Kamishiro leaned over to face my ear and whispered in a small voice. Actually, I overheard a conversation between faculty members. Overheard? Somehow that filled me with a sense of dread. The people having the conversation were on school campus, but they seemed to be very careful. They didn't mind spilling out all their complaints when they were in their own private rooms, though. Like after a love affair, it was the #1 most stale atmosphere. Honestly, those guys from Office Romances are scary. You don't mean... Oh, it's been a while since you last talked. Eh? Was it a while? No, I wasn't worried about that. More importantly... Oh my, as expected, I think the wiretap I installed in the female teaching staff's room has been at least a little useful thus far. We should call this operation, The Elite Female Staff Are Set Up with a Dilemma. I see. How nice. Understandably, my reaction ended up seeming pretty idiotic. In any case, the pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together. The worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history, Izuru Kamakura and Junko Enoshima. Once we find what the connection between them is, we'll be able to solve this case. So then, it'll only take a little longer? Yeah, just a little. Kamishiro's expression became more shrouded. Putting it another way, we just need to take one more step. Here's my prediction. Once we connect one more piece, all of the secrets will be revealed. If that happens, we'll understand soon afterwards. There's only one piece left? So, are you going to talk to this Izuru Kamakura person? They're the culprit, aren't they? Kamishiro made a troubled face, tilting his head to the side at my question. I don't think I can. After all, no one knows where they are. Don't know where they are? So they're missing? I wouldn't call it missing per se. Kamashiro's face only became more and more troubled. His tone of voice became more serious. The human named Izuru Kamakura isn't a member of the regular school, the preparatory school, or the teaching staff. In fact, I can't find any mention of that person's name anywhere in Hope's Peak Academy. No boys, no girls, no student graduated or presently attending. Huh? No mentions anywhere. It's like they're a ghost. I think the most likely possibility is someone wiped out the record clean. What nasty business. I believe it would have been someone inside the school, but not someone within the inner workings of the school. It's too risky for them. So then, there's an accomplice within the school? It's strange though. For as long as I've investigated it, I haven't found a single student who knows who the person called Izuru Kamakura is. The school began hiding them after the incident, so it would not be strange if there were students who knew about them before the incident. However, I never thought there would be no sign of their existence from the very beginning. No way. They really are a ghost. Stop that. They're not anything like a ghost. Kamishiro puffed out his cheeks. He looked really mad. Evidently, he disliked the turn the conversation took. Anyway, Kamishiro cleared his throat slightly and readjusted his face to a more serious expression as he talked. No matter what the reason is, if we don't find out who Izuru Kamakura is, we may have no choice but to give up. Give up? I suddenly raised my voice. Kamishiro shook his finger in front of my face with another tisk, tisk, tisk. It's no good to jump to conclusions. As I was saying, we may have no choice but to give up coming at it from that perspective. If we can't figure it out from that perspective, it'll be better to come at it from a different perspective. It's stupid to always look at things from one point of view. For example, if you only ever look at a middle schooler's boobs, you'll never see her ass. I see. Thank goodness. My reasonable reaction turned to an idiotic one, and I replied overly cheerfully. So, what's the other perspective? Junko Enoshima, of course. Junko Enoshima. We always return to that girl's name. I felt shivers go down my spine. Thanks to the conversation I overheard from the female staff, I finally understand. In what way Junko Enoshima is connected to the worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history. Kamishiro shot a quick glance to me, checking my exceedingly weak reaction, and he let out a large sigh. It looks like you don't remember, but other than being the person who started the rumor of the incident, it's a mystery as to what the other connection she has to the worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history. But it's a mystery I've finally cracked. It seems she's the girl who discovered the incident. Discovered? But isn't that suspicious? Since this is a mystery novel, she's primarily a suspect, said Kamishiro, nodding. But you know that, don't you? She's already been interrogated by the school. Interrogated? I told you! If you don't remember, check your notebook! Kamishiro was yelling like he was throwing a huge temper tantrum, and I quickly read through my notebook. Ah, I see. Junko Enoshima started to spread rumors immediately following the incident. But didn't you say she was interrogated? But if she was released just after that, then that means she can't be the culprit. Thanks to your awful conversation timing, I've come to a conclusion, big sis. Well, it's just as you put it. It seems like the interrogation was highly relentless. I was thinking it would have been impossible for her to escape. Kamishiro suddenly stopped moving. What's wrong? I see. That's it. The boy's eyes widened, and the corners of his mouth shook and trembled. I understand now, big sis, he shrieked excitedly. We completely overlooked the most important part of it all. It really was best to ask you to help me out, big sis. You did great with the interactive mystery part. With uncontrollable excitement, he enthusiastically took out another sweetbread out of the paper bag. As he bit into it, he started to craft a new sentence. By the way, it was a jam bun. What I'm saying is, Junko Enoshima was interrogated by the school. That's where the last piece was hidden. Eh? What do you mean? Well, you see, the information I heard while eavesdropping. The interrogation on Junko Enoshima was definitely incredibly thorough. There were things like polygraph testing and kinesics analysis. They started with cliché things like that. Then something called brain fingerprinting, which is a slightly different interrogation. But the thing with brain fingerprinting is, it seems to be noted as being a more reliable lie detector than compared to the polygraph test. The point is, they were using tests that measured brain waves directly to see if she was lying. Understand? Not really, but it sounds incredible. That's right, it is incredible. The corners of Kamishiro's mouth twitched up into a smile. Not just that, but none of it would have been possible without an expert. An expert? For the interrogation, it seems the school requested a certain student to assist them. Of course, I couldn't find out who the student was, but I finally realized it would be difficult to utilize something such as brain fingerprinting without an expert in the field. They needed to collaborate with someone. If they knew, they would have no reason to imagine it. I'm saying there's someone at this school who is familiar with the intricacies of the brain. Eh? At that exact moment, an awful thought came wandering into my head. I didn't want it to come true, so I quickly tried to think of something else to distract me. It has nothing to... You know him, big sis. He's the super high school level neurologist, Yasuke Matsuda. I heard something that sounded like a short fuse behind my ear. My brain was drawing a blank. With the death notice from earlier, I thought there would be no mistaking there was a connection between Junko Enoshima and Yasuke Matsuda, but perhaps Matsuda knew Enoshima's weakness. Anyways, there must be a reason behind their connection, right? The school released Junko Enoshima from the interrogation way too easily. He continued to talk on, with his eyes shining brightly. I found myself nodding in agreement to everything he said. After he had spoken for approximately an age and a day, I couldn't help but feel as though I had no energy remaining. Even so, Kamishiro continued to talk. In contrast to his happy, talkative nature, I was looking depressed at best. The point being, I can't help but feel as though Yasuke Matsuda may have been the hidden last piece, you know? I mean, do you think Junko Enoshima has just been obsessively aiming at the good relationship between Matsuda and yourself? Hey, if it really is how I think it is, then don't you think that's the connection? I'm not really thinking anything. I don't know anything. I don't even know how the conversation turned to Matsuda in the first place. I don't know. I don't know about these overwhelming reasons. It's impossible that everything has a reason behind it. I stopped writing in my notebook. Because my self-defense is working. If something came and threatened my world, I'd be happier if I just forgot about it. Because if I forgot about it, that means I have nothing to do with it. And it protects my world. So, I'll look away from life's inconveniences and misfortunes. I'll chase after my world with all the strength I carry. I've cast away my feelings of self-hatred and guilt. Because I'll always forget, whether or not I turn away from the truth. And so, I have nothing to do with the things I forget. That's my self-defense. Yeah, I really do feel like we'll solve this soon. I suddenly realized, as Kamishiro continued to talk to himself, he was drawing nonsense shapes on top of the table. Say, big sis, it seems like the end to your issue is coming soon too. After I solve it, it'll be time for you to get ready to reward me. Polish that fine-ass body. I like to imagine that despite your cute face, at night you're really the Aburumbo Shogun, aren't you? Is that it? I bet you are. After he finished his one-sided conversation, he got up from his chair, though it looked more like he was jumping up and down on it. Alright, we're on the home run now! After yelling out an encouraging shout, he turned around. I'm sure next time we meet, big sis, I'll have solved this case. As he waved his hand, Kamishiro departed from the table. However, after only walking a few steps, he stopped. Oh, right. He looked back with an expression that told me he had remembered something. If you don't want to be sitting around doing nothing, you could look into Yasuke Matsuda's small problem. Well, it doesn't matter how much you look into it. You won't be killed or anything, but I thought it would be good to mention it just in case. Still, I don't know what sort of secret connection Yasuke Matsuda and Junko Enoshima have, but it's better to be careful. Secret connection? Enoshima and Matsuda have a secret connection? What the heck? What the heck? I was attacked by a wave of anxiety. My chest tightened in pain. I felt scared of everything. I was just exhausted. Anyway, it's about time we reached the climax. You should get ready, big sis. Anything could happen. Kamishiro finished his warning and turned away. This time, he disappeared into the school cafeteria's crowd like a ghost. Thus, I was left alone in the school cafeteria. I was still feeling exhausted, For the time being, I decided on just concentrating on taking several deep breaths. There was no reason for it. I was simply stalling time. The time to solve the mystery. Time always relentlessly continued in a steady stream. That's why I spent this time taking in deep breaths. And I forgot. I forgot everything perfectly. Very soon, I couldn't remember why I was taking in such deep breaths. How strange. Well, whatever. There was no more that I could forget. From that point on, I was bright, cheerful, and brimming with positivity. Without so much as a backward glance, I walked to the future, filled with hope. I picked up my notebook from the surface of the table, and with plenty of momentum, I stood from my chair and... Huh? I felt lightheaded, or maybe a little different than that. I suddenly grabbed the table with my hand. I looked to where I was looking previously. The words in my notebook danced around the page, distorting themselves. At that moment, I shivered and felt like a horde of insects were crawling up my back. My knees buckled. I thought briefly about what was happening and soon found I was sitting on the chair again. The inside of my head was stained with a metallic gray. My mind was completely blank. I'm tired. My eyelids became heavy, and my face slackened. The world circling me was quickly disappearing. The busy, noisy students around me were vanishing. The human shapes surrounding me were all melting together. It was as if I had been poisoned or hypnotized. I couldn't move a single finger. It was in that complete stillness that I suddenly heard a voice. What an ominous laugh. It was strange, yet sounded so familiar. What's this? Did you actually remember me? I'm happy. Despite your awful habit of forgetting things, you still remembered me? That's right. It's super high school level despair. It's been a while. Why can I remember? Why did I remember them? Even so, I remembered someone. Before, this voice told me something. Let's meet up again. Then I'll kill you properly. Suddenly, I was looking upwards. Before my eyes was a giant shadow standing over me. The shadow had a familiar face, but I couldn't recall any memory of the face. That familiar face stared intensely at me, like it was trying to look past my skin. Their irises were colored by darkness itself. It was like their eyes were despairing, even in despair. As I looked into these eyes, an unexpected thought popped into my head. Ah, so I'll be killed by these eyes. Unfortunately, I can't actually kill you this time either, they whispered to me, like they were answering my thoughts. Once again, I can't kill you due to circumstances. Since you haven't tasted enough despair, you need to taste an even more despair-inducing despair, you see? Suddenly, all the light surrounding me disappeared. At the same time, I noticed my eyelids were shut. The shadow seemed to cover my face completely. But if you say you don't want to taste that despair, then it means war. If you don't fight despair, you'll never feel hope again. Those were the last words I heard. After that, voices, sounds, everything had disappeared. As numbness took hold of my body, all my senses stopped working. I was completely still. I fell out of consciousness. I fell out of it silently.